Unfortunately, I'm starting to get this gut feeling that we might not even see Caitlin back on the court this season, and that might actually be the best thing. Caitlin should be out for the rest of the season. Maybe this season is just done for her. Maybe it doesn't make sense.
Injury report that Caitlin Clark is a game time decision. I think they did that for ticket sales. I think they knew that we all was going to pick up on that and pretty much say, well, you know what? There's a chance Caitlin Clark could be coming back for this game, maybe even that game.
Caitlin Clark just dropped a bombshell about walking away from the Indiana Fever, fed up with the hypocrisy of this pathetic league.
About the Caitlin Clark injury. Let's listen to her, bro.
Caitlin starting full court running last week. Has she been able to do anything extra since then or return to practice at all?
No return to practice. She's been able to get a little bit more in her full court running, with her all of her body weight. It's really building up from doing minimal to then building some endurance to do longer periods of time. She's been able to do a little bit more on the court in terms of how she moved.
Caitlin Clark.
So there is really no timetable as to when Caitlin Clark could return. Y'all got me? There is no set time as when CC could possibly be coming back. And as of right now, the Indiana Fever is looking real spooky because they're not keeping it at 100.
She's been sidelined since July 17th, while the WNBA pumps out vague, contradictory updates to milk ticket sales. Meanwhile, Indiana keeps losing as her serious injury from reckless bully players keeps her out.
But it's looking like he don't care for Caitlin Clark. We know clear as day that Stephanie White has been looking in certain areas not to be feeling the Caitlin Clark effect. I don't know, but this stuff is definitely looking concerning because...
And don't get me started on how they've handled the updates. First, it's day-to-day, then suddenly out indefinitely, and then... my personal favorite, a game-time decision against Dallas. Yeah, sure, a game-time decision for someone who hasn't practiced in weeks.
Specifically, the reporting around Caitlin Clark's injury, because I feel like it is getting stranger by the day. It has been a month now that Caitlin has...
What's next? They're going to list her as probable for the 2032 season, and then here comes Coach Stephanie White dropping the bomb that she hasn't even practiced. Not one single practice. So why the hell is she even being listed on the game status sheet at all? Oh, right. Ticket sales. Gotta keep those butts in the seats and those WNBA live stream numbers limping along.
Yesterday, she was listed as a game time decision for today's game against the Dallas Wings. And then after practice yesterday, Coach Stephanie White basically came out and said, no, Caitlin Clark hasn't even been practicing. So they changed it from a game time decision to her being out.
And let's not ignore the math here. Just 12 games left in the regular season, season ends September 9th, and every single day she stays out makes the odds of her coming back basically microscopic. At this point, the possible return window is looking like the drive-thru at a closed McDonald's. You can show up, but you're not getting anything.
At the Indiana Fever's schedule right now, they only have 12 games left, and there is exactly 4 weeks left in the regular season. And the craziest...
Now, moving into this magical timeline circus. Beat reporter Scott Agnes decided to play mood killer and drop the now infamous "at least several more weeks" comment. Several more weeks? My guy, do you even know what season we're in? That puts her coming back for 6 games tops before playoffs. What's the point? To sell a last-minute comeback montage? Even ESPN thought they had it figured out, circling August 12th as her big return. But of course, in classic WNBA fashion, game day lists started playing musical chairs. Questionable in the morning, out by lunch.
Replying to someone else's comment who said, just can't wait until CC is back. She's the most dynamic, electric player in the WNBA. Great job, Lexi. And then Scott Agnes replied and he said, have patience, at least several more weeks.
And then, surprise, surprise, Stephanie White herself admits Caitlin hasn't done a single full practice. Not one. So where is this game time decision coming from? Is it a decision about whether she's going to sit on the bench in sneakers or slides? Because if you haven't practiced, you're not playing. Everyone knows that.
Contenders at this point, I'm just not so sure. Do you risk another injury that can again compound and turn into something else down the line? Now, one other
and here's the thing. This isn't even the first time they've pulled this nonsense. Mid-season, she came back from a quad injury after exactly one full-speed practice. One. And what happened? She got hurt again. Imagine being so bad at managing injuries that your star player is basically on the world's worst cycle. Injured, rushed back, injured again. Either the WNBA is completely incapable of communicating clearly, or they're deliberately hiding the truth, and honestly, I don't know which is worse. Both are a slap in the face to the fans who are literally paying for this mess.
A star player like that, we will never know all the information, nor should we know all the information, and that's actually good for Caitlin. It protects her for when she does come back on the court. She can't be targeted. Teams can't use a certain injury or ailment against her if people don't really know what is going on. But
you want to talk about disaster? Let's get into the full-blown fever meltdown. In one night, yes, one single cursed night, against Phoenix, both backup point guards filling in for Caitlin were wiped out for the season. It was like the basketball gods decided to flip the table and walk out. First, Sydney Colson tears her left ACL in the first quarter. She's in her mid-30s, which in WNBA years is basically senior citizen territory for guards. An ACL at that age isn't just a season ender, it's a career flipper. And that's brutal because Colson wasn't just some bench warmer. She had her moments, she brought leadership. She was the steady hands when things got shaky. Gone.
thrown back into any mix if she doesn't have significant practices under her belt before she goes into game speed. You can try to simulate game speed as much as you want in practice.
Then, as if the universe was feeling extra petty that night, Ari McDonald goes down in the fourth quarter with a broken bone in her right foot. Just when she was in the middle of proving herself again, showing she could run the offense, push the pace, and be a spark. Boom, season over.
Colson sustained an anterior cruciate ligament ACL tear. Sydney into her ACL in her left knee during the first quarter of the game.
It began in the first quarter.
Oh, and because the WNBA operates with the urgency of a DMV on lunch break, the trade deadline had passed 4 days earlier. 4 days earlier, which means no blockbuster trades, no sneaky late-season steals. The Fever are just stuck staring at their roster like, well, guess we're screwed.
I think you're wrong. Again, you think it'll be a couple more weeks before CC returns to practice. Please stop always saying negative and depressing hit about Caitlin Clark. She has been running full court consistently as reported for over a week. She may be...
And speaking of the roster, let's talk about how hilariously thin it is now. Technically, they've got 10 healthy players. But that's on paper. In reality, Coach White refuses to even play Chloe Beebe, KK, or Bri Turner. Which means you're rolling with basically 7 players in a league where you need fresh legs just to survive. And yeah, I said refuses, because it's not like these players are all injured, she just doesn't want to play them. This is like cooking with half your ingredients because you don't like the other ones. It's not strategy, it's stubbornness.
Scotty Boy is right, and it's still going to be a couple weeks. You should want to be encouraging to the fans, bro. Like, let's just give it some time. Not just it's finna be a couple weeks. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Now look at the numbers. With Clark, the Fever were 8-5. Without her, 9-7. That's not catastrophic yet, but it's a steady slide. And with your depth chart now looking like a middle school rec league, it's only going to get uglier. Their playoff push? On life support, with the machine beeping slower every game. And here's the cherry on top. All of this chaos is happening while your biggest draw, your face of the franchise, is sitting there in street clothes, day to day, for a month, while the league pumps out vague injury updates like they're reading fortune cookies.
Now, initially, it was a growing strain, like a pulled muscle. Caitlin Clark has not played a game since July the 17th. It is now August 12th. In 5 days, Caitlin Clark...
The WNBA is acting like we're too dumb to notice. But fans aren't stupid. We can see the contradictions, the bad injury management, and the total lack of transparency. We see a coach making questionable rotation choices, a front office with no plan B, and a league willing to milk a star's name for every last click without giving a damn about what's actually going on.
Cohesion might be the right word. They've had cohesion issues this entire season. When Caitlin Clark is in, the team plays completely different than when Caitlin Clark is not on the court.
So Caitlin Clark sits down with Sue Bird, thinking she's doing a nice little interview, and she casually drops a story that should make every Fever fan throw something at the wall. She admits that Coach Stephanie White benched her mid-game for 2 turnovers in a row. Okay, fine, coaches bench players for turnovers. But then, the lesson was apparently that she should stop trying risky plays, like a fast break pass to a teammate. And not only that, after Clark actually held back on one of those passes later, White praised her for it. You heard me right. She got a pat on the back for not doing the thing that makes her Caitlin freaking Clark.
A whole 30 plus days for a pulled muscle, essentially. I've been saying this. Caitlin Clark adding that muscle was way too fast. Probably messed up her mobility, and her basically her equilibrium is off. Her balance is off.
Clark even admitted it hurt not to make that pass. And it should. This is the stuff she's known for. The bold plays, the quick decisions, the passes that make the crowd lose its mind and swing momentum instantly. But apparently, that's not part of the safe, cookie-cutter, don't-take-risks brand of basketball Stephanie White wants. Which is insane because you don't recruit the biggest name in women's basketball in years just to tell her to tone it down and be like everyone else.
Practice, she's been able to get a little bit more in her full court running, with her all of her body weight. It's really building up from doing minimal to then building some endurance to do longer periods of time. She's been able to do a little bit more on the court in terms of how she moves.
Caitlin Clark
This is how you ruin a generational player, Sanso. You coach the Caitlin right out of Caitlin. You strip away the personality and flair that put the WNBA on the front page for once in its life, and you turn her into just another solid player. Nobody is showing up or tuning in for solid. They're here for logo threes, impossible dimes, and plays that make people rewind their DVR just to see if that really happened.
Possibly be injury prone, maybe. You know what I'm saying? We don't know because they're not being transparent with the injury. They're saying it's a growing strain. It's clearly not a strain, guys. I just want to let you know. Now, Stephanie White said this yesterday.
It's like if Steve Kerr saw Steph Curry pull up from deep and said, "Yeah, Steph, don't do that again. Just take the mid-range jumper." Before Steph changed the NBA, long threes were considered bad shots. Now they're the standard. Caitlin could do the same for the WNBA if the league and her own coach don't smother her under boring, safe tactics. But of course, the WNBA being the WNBA, they're perfectly capable of taking their one true star and telling her to be less interesting.
Well, this is the kind of update I never want to have to give. And this is a bad one, and it affects the same position.
Meanwhile, the team's actual situation couldn't be worse. With Sydney Colson and Ari McDonald both done for the season, the Fever literally have 0 natural point guards left. None. They're forcing Kelsey Mitchell, who's built to score, to bring the ball up, and even making Aja Boston, a center, act like a guard sometimes. That's how desperate they are. It's like making your goalie take corner kicks in soccer because you've got no one else.
We lost 2 very, very competent players, including the starting point guard that was filling in for the other starting point guard.
Fans aren't dumb. They can see what's going on. And plenty of them suspect the league is keeping Caitlin's real status under wraps just to keep eyeballs on the games. But the reports floating around say she's already been privately ruled out for the rest of the regular season, which means all these little maybe she's close hints are nothing more than bait. And it's not like she's soft. Clark played 185 consecutive games between college and the early part of her rookie WNBA season without missing a single one for injury. Now, she's missed games 4 separate times in just this rookie year. Quad pulls, groin pulls, all the kind of injuries you rack up when your body is getting pounded every night and you're rushed back without enough recovery.
They only have 12 games left, and there is exactly 4 weeks left in the regular season. And the craziest thing about this last groin injury with Caitlin Clark is how it's been covered.
The risk here is obvious. Bring her back early and you're just asking for another injury, maybe even something worse that messes with her long-term career. But without her, the Fever are looking at crawling into the playoffs as a low seed, maybe 8th, with no real shot at doing anything. And the emotional toll is real. This team's been slapped around by injuries all year, and Clark's return might be the only thing that would give them the spark to believe again. And here's the real kicker. The entire league is basically hanging on one player's groin right now. Playoff hopes, ticket sales, national attention, all of it is on her. and the way the league and the team have managed this makes them look amateur if we're being nice, manipulative if we're telling the truth. So yeah, if you want the unfiltered truth about this and every other WNBA train wreck, stick around, because clearly they're not going to give you the real story themselves. And at this rate, the next update on Caitlin Clark might as well be a press release saying, "We're still making it up as we go."